campers, and welcome back to the Campfire Files, where every story drags you deeper into the shadows of the unknown. Tonight's tale isn't just another ghost story or campfire myth. This one comes from the quiet edges of the forest, where strange lights flicker in the sky and silence falls heavier than night itself. Some people laugh off sightings, dismiss them as tricks of the mind or misidentified aircraft. But those who've experienced it firsthand know better. They know the truth is far stranger and far more terrifying. So gather close to the fire, because what you're about to hear is no legend. It's a chilling account of what happens when the sky itself seems to open, when you're marked, observed, and chosen. I always like to think of myself as someone grounded, someone who could explain away the unexplainable. But that night I wasn't, not even close. It started on a quiet road in rural Montana. I'd gone out for a late-night drive, just me and my thoughts, trying to escape the noise of work and people. The sky was clear, the stars sharp, almost too bright, the kind of night where everything feels alive, like the world is holding its breath. At first, I noticed the lights out of the corner of my eye, tiny, flickering, moving in ways that didn't make sense. Red, then green, then blue, not blinking like planes or satellites. They danced, but not in formation, more like they were aware. I slowed the car, heart thumping faster. I rubbed my eyes. Maybe it was my reflection on the windshield, but no. When I looked directly, the lights were there, hovering, shifting too fast, darting behind trees and reappearing somewhere else entirely. I tried to rationalize it. Drones, weather balloons, flares, anything that could explain them. But the way they moved, too deliberate, too intelligent. Then came the silence. The usual hum of the engine and tires on asphalt felt muted, as if the world had paused. The radio crackled to life, only static, broken sentences that didn't make sense. I stopped the car, frozen, eyes glued to the field ahead. A low, pulsing hum began to fill the air. Metallic, vibrating in my chest, something shifted in the sky, a sudden brightness. I squinted, and for a second, I could swear the lights weren't just above me. They were around me, circling, watching. I took a shaky breath and grabbed my phone to take a picture. The moment I did, the lights vanished, gone, just like that. Only the hum remained, faint now, like it never left. I drove on, faster than I intended, hands gripping the wheel. But every shadow along the tree line seemed to twitch unnaturally. Every rustle made me flinch. And then I realized I wasn't just seeing lights. I was being led somewhere. I followed the lights, or maybe they were guiding me. I can't say for sure. The road ended at a wide open field, the kindest place where the horizon feels endless. The grass glimmered under the stars, but there was something off. A shimmer, almost like heat waves, though the air was cold. I stepped out of the car, and the hum from before grew louder, more insistent. My skin crawled, hair standing on end. That's when I noticed the shadows. Not normal shadows from the moon, but long, thin shapes moving at the edge of the field. They didn't run or walk. They glided. I froze. My heartbeat thundered. Every instinct screamed to run, but my legs wouldn't cooperate. And then the lights returned, closer now, brighter, hovering just above the ground, almost touching the tops of the grass. I remember hearing something that sounded like a voice, but not human. High-pitched, warbling, like a radio tuning in and out. "Come," I thought I heard it. "Come." I stumbled forward, drawn by some force I couldn't resist. The hairs on my arms prickled as if the air itself was charged. My phone slipped from my hands, and when I bent to pick it up, the lights darted again, faster, closer. Then, nothing. Silence. The hum stopped. The voices vanished. Only the wind whispered, though it sounded wrong, too soft, almost like it was speaking to me. And then I felt it. Pressure, like something invisible pressed against my chest. My knees buckled. I gasped, trying to move, but my body refused. My mind screamed, "Run!" But it was like my brain and my body weren't connected anymore. I tried to call out, but no sound came. My lips moved, my tongue twisting, but only a strangled noise escaped. The lights shifted again, forming a triangle in the sky above me. I could make out forms now, tall, slender, gray, just like the grays in documentaries and sightings. Oversized, black eyes that reflected the stars, limbs too long, joints bending wrong. They hovered silently. No sound of wings or engines, no wind, only their presence. Every instinct I had told me to flee, but my body was still frozen. And then, the flash. Bright white light, blinding, hot even though the air was cold. I fell backward, shielding my eyes. My vision swirled, shapes twisted into impossible geometries. I felt a hand, or maybe not a hand, a limb, something thin, cold, impossibly smooth, touching my arm. Panic surged through me. I kicked and thrashed, but the pressure was everywhere now, holding me down, lifting me slightly, and then, weightless, like I was floating above the field. The world tilted, warped, and I couldn't tell up from down. Through the ringing, I caught glimpses of them, their faces featureless except for those black, unblinking eyes. Limbs bending in impossible ways. They weren't just observing, they were studying, learning, probing. And then, everything stopped. Silence, except for the high-pitched ringing in my ears. I was suspended, alone, staring up at stars that didn't look like stars anymore. And then, a sensation I can't describe. Not pain, not fear, something worse. A quiet, gnawing understanding that whatever was happening, it was permanent. Something had entered me, observed me, marked me. I can't explain how long I floated there. Minutes, hours. Time no longer seemed relevant. The wind, the field, even the stars, all meaningless. And then, just as suddenly as it began, I was back on the ground. My car was where I'd left it. The field was empty, the lights gone. My phone, lying in the grass, showed no evidence of the lights, nothing except the night sky reflected on its screen. But I knew what had happened, and I knew, whatever it wasn't finished with me. I drove back along the dark country road, hands gripping the wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. My mind raced, trying to process what had just happened, trying to convince myself it wasn't real. But my body knew. At first, I tried to shake it off. It was a hallucination, sleep deprivation, heat stroke. I muttered aloud, but deep down I knew better. Something had touched me, marked me, changed something inside. When I reached the cabin, I noticed small things, odd things, subtle, almost imperceptible. My compass spun randomly, twitching like it had a mind of its own. The wind had stopped entirely outside, and even the owls were silent. That night, I barely slept. Every sound startled me. The creak of wood, the rustle of leaves, the hum of the refrigerator. And when I closed my eyes, I saw them. The tall, gray figures, eyes black and endless, limbs bending impossibly, watching me from corners, from the ceiling, from the shadows behind my eyelids. I started noticing patterns over the next days. Missing time. I'd glance at the clock, then suddenly it would be hours later. My neighbors mentioned I'd been walking in the field at odd hours, but I had no memory of leaving the cabin. Electronic devices went haywire. Phones died. Radios crackled with static, even when unplugged. Screens flickered, showing faint silhouettes, but when I looked closer, nothing, just my own reflection distorted. Then came the lights. Not like before, but small pinpricks hovering near my windows. Tiny glows at first, darting like fireflies, then brighter, larger, forming shapes that felt deliberate. I tried to record them once. My camera froze. The footage, when I finally got it working again, was blank, except for one frame, a figure standing in the field, impossibly tall, staring directly into the lens. I couldn't sleep, couldn't focus. Paranoia built into a constant knot in my stomach. Every shadow, every flicker of light felt like a presence, a reminder that I was being watched. That night, I swore I heard something crawling just outside the cabin walls. By the third night, the air felt thick, electric. I could hear low humming under the floorboards. My pulse quickened, and when I turned toward the window, I saw it, hovering, motionless, just outside. One figure this time, eyes impossibly large, staring straight at me, and then it moved, not toward me, but in a way that made the world feel like it was warping, limbs bending, body twisting, impossible angles. And suddenly I felt weightless. The paralysis returned. My limbs locked, my breath shallow. I tried to scream, but only a strangled gurgle came out. And that's when the light, a searing metallic white beam, enveloped me. I could feel their presence all around me, not just one but multiple. They studied me, probing with thoughts that weren't mine, memories that weren't mine. Time fractured, reality fractured. I felt as if I were being pulled apart and reassembled simultaneously. There was no fear, not exactly, just a deep, primal understanding of my own helplessness. And then, the world snapped back. The light gone, the figures gone, my body collapsed to the ground, my chest heaving, my mind scrambling to grasp what had happened. The field was empty, the wind had returned, normal night sounds filled the air, but something inside me had changed, something that couldn't be undone. And as I looked up at the night sky, I saw the lights again, distant, faint, watching, waiting. The following night, I couldn't stay inside the cabin. Something was pulling me back to the field. Every instinct screamed at me not to go, but curiosity or madness overruled. When I reached the clearing, the lights were already there, pulsing slowly, rhythmically like a heartbeat. I tried to step back, but my legs felt leaden, weighted as if the earth itself wanted me to stay. And then I saw them, 3 figures this time, emerging from the lights. The grays, slim, gray, impossibly thin, limbs bending in ways that defied logic. Their black, oversized eyes glimmered with an alien intelligence. My chest tightened, my breath caught, and yet I couldn't look away. Suddenly, the beam of light descended. A metallic hum filled my ears, piercing and constant. My body froze. I tried to scream. My hands clawed at the air, but nothing responded. Paralysis. Total. I could feel them around me, studying me, not with hostility exactly, but an intrusive, clinical curiosity. One reached closer, limb bending impossibly as it extended toward me, and then I felt weightless. The ground fell away. My body lifted slowly, impossibly, into the beam. The lights around me became brighter, searing, blinding. My ears rang. I couldn't move. I couldn't think, only feel, only sense. They communicated without words. Thoughts, memories, the things I'd buried deep inside, childhood fears, regrets, and the shame I carried. And through it all, an overwhelming awareness that I was powerless. I tried to focus, to fight. My mind screamed for escape, but my body, my senses betrayed me. Time stretched. Seconds became minutes. Minutes became hours. I lost myself in the light. Then it happened. The probe, the cold, metallic sensation pressing against my skin, scanning, recording, dissecting. Not pain exactly, but invasive, intrusive, violating. And the figures watched, waited, analyzing. Memories bled into present. Dreams merged with reality. I could hear echoes of myself, distant screams, whispers of my own voice calling out in confusion. I thought I'd lose my mind entirely. And then, just as suddenly as it began, it stopped. The beam vanished. Gravity returned. My feet hit the ground. The grays were gone. The lights dissolved into the night sky. I fell to my knees, gasping, heart pounding like a drum in my chest. The world was still, silent, normal, and yet not. Something had followed me back, a residue, a knowledge, a terror that could not be shaken. I stumbled home, mind racing, body trembling. Every shadow in the cabin seemed alive. Every whisper of wind sounded like their gaze. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't even convince myself it hadn't happened. Outside, the night sky was empty, peaceful, deceptively calm. And yet, when I looked back at the field, faint pinpricks of light glimmered again. Watching, waiting, something had changed. I had changed, and I knew Somewhere out there, they were still observing, still cataloging, still deciding if I was part of some experiment that wasn't finished. I don't remember how long I sat there, frozen on the cabin floor. My limbs ached from the weightlessness, my chest burned from the panic. I wanted to call someone, anyone, but my phone, if it even worked, was dead. No signal, nothing. Outside, the forest was still, too still. The kind of silence that presses into your ears makes you question every sound you think you hear. I wanted to tell myself it was a dream, a hallucination, sleep paralysis, anything, but the residual hum, a subtle vibration under my skin, reminded me it was real. The next morning, I checked the clearing. No lights, no signs of movement, just the frost-covered grass glittering in the weak sunlight. And yet, something had been left behind. A faint scorch in the dirt, perfectly circular, like a landing mark. I tried to sleep that night, couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt them near, watching, breathing. Their presence pressed against the edges of my mind, and in those moments of semi-consciousness, I thought I heard a voice, not entirely human, repeating my name. Days turned into weeks. I returned to my routine, but nothing felt normal. Shadows seemed to stretch unnaturally. Lights flickered where they shouldn't. Electronics malfunctioned for no reason, and every so often I'd catch a glimpse of gray in the corner of my vision, slim, elongated, disappearing when I turned. Friends asked if I'd gone mad. Maybe I had. Maybe the forest and the lights and the paralysis were all my mind's invention. But some nights, alone in my apartment, I still feel that pull. The irresistible tug toward the unknown, toward the field, toward them. I've tried to document everything, notes, sketches, recordings. But every time I look at them, they feel wrong. Words don't capture it. The fear, the weight, the impossible. My own memories feel fragmented, unreliable, and that's the worst part. The uncertainty, the not knowing. Was I taken? Was it a dream? Did they implant something or just watch? Did I imagine it all because my mind couldn't handle the isolation and night in the woods? I'll never know. And maybe that's exactly how they want it. Sometimes late at night I still hear the faint hum of machinery just beyond perception. I catch glimpses of shadows in the periphery, tall, thin, unhuman, and I know that somewhere out there they are observing, cataloging, deciding. I don't go back. I don't camp anymore. I don't drive down those back roads alone. And I never look at the night sky the same way. But if you find yourself in the middle of nowhere, when the forest goes quiet and the stars look a little off, remember this. Some things aren't meant to be understood. Some things aren't meant to be seen. And some things, whatever they are still out there, waiting, patient, calculating. And if you hear a faint humming in the distance, don't ignore it. Don't dismiss it. Listen carefully. because you might be next. And that concludes tonight's chapter from the Campfire Files. Out here, under the stars, the unknown doesn't just watch from the shadows. Sometimes it reaches down and takes us, leaving only questions behind. But the sky isn't the only place where the impossible lurks. Deep in the Appalachian Mountains, where the forests stretch for miles and the mist never truly lifts, people whisper of something else, something massive, wild, and all too real. A creature seen countless times, yet never proven, but never explained. When we sit down next time on the Campfire Files, we follow the trails of a legend that walks on 2 feet but leaves behind fear as heavy as its tracks. Some call it folklore, others swear they've seen it with their own eyes. But until then, whatever you do, keep the fire burning and don't forget to look over your shoulder.